You don't want to be Joey Tribbiani just messing around in the 90s. You don't want to feel the ennui of Joey.
I think I could be open to the ennui of Joey, if I'm being real. I feel like we're on the precipice of something big here, David.
There is an energy that I can feel welling up in the bottom of my gut, and I'm ready.
We don't see each other that often, despite the fact we see each other weekly. Like,
yes,
I see your face digitally.
Yeah, I see you in a computer screen, but I don't see or feel or smell you.
Yeah, which are like really underappreciated senses for best friends.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's true.
What's the musk like?
What's your musk like?
Yeah.
It's kind
of. I don't know if that's. I don't necessarily need an answer, but I will have an answer in a few days here.
I mean, I was about to describe your musk. If you want me to keep that a secret, that's totally fine.
See, I can't smell my musk. I don't know.
It's kind of sweet.
Kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's a pleasant musk. It's almost like
such a relief.
It's almost kind of like vanilla-esque.
Oh, that's a huge relief. I'm so glad you didn't say like cumin and horseradish or something like that.
No, it is not spicy. You don't smell spicy. You smell sweet.
Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming.
And
my
musk.
name is and musk, and my name is Vanilla Chase today.
Ooh, I am David still. I'm just David. I haven't been given a smell modifier by Chase yet. We'll see if it happens. Who knows?
The context missing from that conversation is that I'm flying down to hang out with David in a few days here.
Yes.
Which you might say, hey, that's a little overkill to record a podcast not in person and then hang out for the rest of the week. But I say, I got to edit this motherfucker and I got to do that tomorrow. So that needs to happen.
Sure does.
Plus, like, you know, I don't want to be down there like editing or like,
no.
Also, I'm not like, shouts out to AJ for being a producer who can produce a show in person. I think recording a podcast in person would be very challenging. I don't know that I have the technical know-how to know how to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like complex.
Can you imagine if I brought my microphone? What the hell? What the heck?
Then you've really crossed the boundary into being a professional podcaster.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
You got to cast the pod. You got to be ready whenever there's a thought or news or something to have a take on.
I just don't know if like my brain. We have been doing this remote the whole time. We've never done an in-person one, and I can't imagine how my brain would grapple with like the lack of latency or anything like that. Where's all my joke time?
Exactly. Let's just do one guerrilla style and just record it on our phones.
Yeah, hell yeah.
People will love that.
I'm okay with that.
People will love that.
Well, we're gonna play a bunch of games that like people have suggested over the years of us doing this show that we're like, well, we can't do that remotely or like on our own.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if we just did like a couple minutes of a phone recording to be like, here's what it feels like to play it like right now or whatever. So we'll see. We'll figure something out.
We'll figure it out.
In the meantime, though, hey.
Yes.
You been playing them games? What you been doing?
I have been playing games, Chase.
You been playing them games?
I have been.
What you been playing?
What games you been playing, boy?
Yeah. What's going on there?
Mostly Astrobot.
Yeah. Okay,
Mostly
sure.
Astrobot. I've beaten Astrobot. I've done the whole thing, I think. As far as I know, I have 301.
Ooh,
bots.
Wow. Hell yeah. That's exciting.
So there's a little secret extra bot there, which I love.
Yeah.
I love there being a secret extra thing at the end of a game. But this game was so good from start to finish. All killer, no filler. The last boss battle. Have you beat this game?
No, not yet. I do know about the last boss, though.
The last boss battle is quite fun.
Yeah.
It goes pretty hard in the paint. I would say I think you were talking about it last week, how Kingdom Hearts 3, the gummy ship, is like the best Star Fox game in a while. I'm like, okay, now this was pretty good. So yeah, some space battling going on in the final sequence. And it was a pretty
epic
ending. There was a lot of different phases to it. I hated using that word right there, but I couldn't think of anything else. So
don't worry.
Yeah, I am leaning into my millennialness with that one. But it was very exciting. It was bombastic ending, and it was really kind of a testament to everything you've learned in the game, which I always love. It wasn't like a skill check, but it was just like, hey, just like you have to just know how to use certain items in a specific way. So I guess it is a skill check, but it wasn't egregiously difficult or anything like that. It never seemed like it was trying to get you. It was just trying to see what you could do, what you could style on, which was fun. The one thing that I would say I thought was the weakest thing in the game was the main villain, just in general. I don't care for his design. I think maybe
it looks too yucky.
Yeah, he's just kind of gross looking. Like everything else in the game is so shiny and pristine looking, and then he's just like this big gloobly, like I think they call him the space bully. And that's just like, I just think that if this is going to be a game or a mascot that is going to try to stand up to Mario in some way, shape, or form, he's a better villain, because this guy is no Bowser, that's for sure. Sure, but a fun final fight nonetheless. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, I want more. Yeah, I want DLC. I want a sequel. I want to see how else they can riff on this formula, because it seems very riffable, because they did so many different types of game mechanics in this one that, maybe the next Astrobot game is like not a main platform. If they could do something else like Mario, right? They could do Astrobot Fighter Pilot Odyssey. Or something like that. Astrobot Odyssey. Yeah. He throws his head and it becomes, everybody has like a little Astrobot head that he controls them with. But yeah, just an excellent game. I just want more Astrobot.
Yeah. I hope it's evidence to Sony that like, look, you can do cool other shit, and that's okay. Like, I hope that the lesson they learn from this is that experimentation is cool, rather than like we need to like weaponize the nostalgia of these characters against the people. Because like, even if the cool little references to other bots weren't there, it's still an incredible platformer. It still feels really good. So like, that is a cool part of the game, but it would not make or break it for sure.
Yeah, because that is something I've thought about. Like, would it make sense to still have so much like Sony branding in the next Astrobot? Because if they do it that way, then it might get old. I think it would probably get pretty old, but I'm curious to see if they can expand Astrobot beyond just the Sony game to being more just like Astrobot, who is a Sony character, but then that might put Astrobot on the chopping block eventually as far as IPs go, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, like I understand the interpretation of the kind of game being like an ad for Sony products, right? Like showing you an actual real life PlayStation 5 is kind of being like, maybe you should buy the Pro or whatever, like that's present. But like, I think another interpretation of the same data is that like, to me, it's funny that there is so much hardware in there of like, this is such a weird thing to feature in a video game. Yeah. That to me, it goes around the other edge to being funny, especially when it's stuff that like is not new. Whenever they're like, as I think this happened a lot more in Astrobot's Playroom, where they're like, look at the fucking PS2 memory card, dude. Isn't it sick? Like that's funny to me. But I understand that like tying yourself to like a hardware release is sort of a bizarre thing to do for a video game. So like, I also hope like they do genuinely have a very cute and memorable and good design in Astrobot. Yeah. Like it's shocking that they actually landed on something that is like, that's good. That's a good mascot. And so like, I hope that they continue to riff on that and not just say like, yeah, the thing that is good here is the weaponized nostalgia and the fact that we feature the 2020 PlayStation 5 in the video game, like, or the controller, the DualSense is a big part of the game.
Yeah. Or they're going to release new levels as DLC and it's all going to be based around the PS5 Pro.
I think they did say that they're putting out some kind of free DLC for the game recently.
They were doing like speedrun challenges or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. Which I find cool. That's fun.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what that's like, because like I said, I just want more Astrobot. But yeah, the last secret level was a lot of fun. It was very challenging. It was a challenging level. And I love a little challenge at the end of a game.
I do enjoy the optional challenge usually. Yeah. In a video game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that level in particular just showed like they are working with something that is good beyond just the marketing, because that level is like, there really isn't much in the way of Sony-ness in it. It's just like platforms and shit. So
just good jumping.
Feels good to jump as a bot. So yeah, curious to see where this franchise goes, where this mascot goes, and if they're going to lean into Astro is cool or isn't how Astro markets Sony so cool. I hope it's
isn't it cool when you see the ape escape people in a video game? Isn't that the cool thing?
Oh, I mean, all those last levels were pretty cool.
Yeah, the sort of like levels after you beat a boss where it's like, hey, just play like a version of one of these other video games.
Yeah. Oh, it is fun. The God of War one. Did you play that one?
The God of War one is like definitely the standout of like, hey, this is very good.
They have Boy in the background as like the beat drop.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good.
Yeah. I've seen people say that they're like not crazy about those ones. And I think that may stem from just like not liking those other games very much, which I get. But, you know, I'm a person who enjoys most of the games that they featured in that end section.
Mm-hmm.
I again, in a future release, I would hope that they would feature games that are a little bit older. Like when the first one was Ape Escape, I'm like, oh shit, like what other cool games that have kind of been forgotten are not in here? Like, is there going to be a Gravity Rush level?
That'd be cool.
At the end of one of these? And like they could have, you know, a lot of people from Asobi are former Japan studio people. And like they could probably make it feel good if they have the actual like rights to do that. But I was like, I could just go play Uncharted or, you know, Horizon or God of War or whatever. And like, I guess, you know, to some extent, maybe that's a good thing because like if you play those games that are featured in the end levels and you're like, I would like to play more of this. And they're like, no, you cannot. You know, like then that's a bit of a bummer because there are those characters in the games where it's like, oh, what series is this one from? It's like a game that cannot be played on a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of a lose-lose in that situation. But yeah, if they do Astrobot 2, like, you know, let's see what else we got going on there. Yeah. Maybe an Okami level, you know?
Ooh. Yeah, those levels that are based off of other games, I thought they were really impressive in that they were really able to distill the uniqueness of those games into that level while still also keeping the Astrobot-ness of it all. So I think it's just, you know, it's a hard thing to blend something and give your interpretation of it while also feeling like you're not completely, that you're still having your own soul as far as it goes. So
being able to kind of like distill the different parts of a video game reminds me of this sort of like magic trick that Smash Bros pulls off where it's like these characters shouldn't be able to exist in the same game and feel cohesive, but they all do. You know, like Ryu and Cloud and Banjo-Kazooie all exist in the same game and I know how to control all of them.
And they all like, feel like how they do more or less in their games. Yeah.
But somehow I'm able to control them like any other Smash Bros can player. So like
exactly,
it's sort of baffling that they're able to do that. And in the same way here, that like they've definitely simplified some of the mechanics of God of War for that God of War level. Like the core tenets are still there of like using the axe to like freeze water and, you know, the crows being around the level that you can try and find and hit them and shit like that. Like that's all there. So it's impressive.
Yeah. That was great. Anytime you change your size as Astro is good. Like also the shrinking level was good too.
The shrink one's
awesome.
very good. Yeah.
An excellent game. Really curious to see what Asobi does in the future, whether it's more Astrobot or something else. And then also, you know, bring back, why did you do Astrobot PlayStation All-Stars? Just make it like an Astrobot game, but then just do PlayStation All-Stars with it as well.
Yeah, I wonder if in some like dungeon in Sony, if there's just like
there's one person working on PlayStation All-Stars too.
Yes, like the like Dark Souls kindling is slowly just kind of like burning a little bit with people being like, should we maybe make another All-Stars game?
I thought the first one was pretty good.
It's pretty good. I've never played it since we played it, but like I remember having a good time with it.
It did the job when we were in Houston.
Yeah.
It did the job.
It served as a very good dorm room video game.
Sure did.
Yeah, I do wonder if maybe they have a better handle on like their own sort of like identity at this point. I don't know if that's true or not, but like I just feel like the era that All-Stars came out in was, I think that was PS3, right?
It was PS3, yeah.
Like the Sony, like the identity of Sony was just very kind of weird at that moment.
Yeah, PS3 was not a very successful console. Not as successful as the 360 was at the time. It was really Microsoft's world back then.
It felt that way. And I guess to some extent, like Nintendo was doing its own thing too. But yeah, the PlayStation 3 was kind of on the bottom of that stack.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like you feel that in PlayStation All-Stars of them feeling kind of like they're fighting from below a little bit. Of like, we don't really know what the vibe is and like, why are these characters connected? Again, it's a magic trick that Smash Bros works as well as it does. Cause like there's so many disparate tones in all of the characters in there that it shouldn't work, but somehow it does. And I think that they would need a similar magic trick to make all these weird PlayStation characters work together.
Just get Tetsuya Nomura and do it. He's did it 3, 4, 5 times with Kingdom Hearts. How many Kingdom Hearts games there are? He could do it. He could do it for PlayStation All-Stars.
You get Nomura and Sakurai in a room and just pay them whatever they need to be paid to make this work.
Now we're cooking.
Now we're cooking with gas. Wow. That would be something else. Yeah, why not?
That would be like that famous Pixar story where like the 3 Pixar dudes were at a lunch or cafe, and they came up with 5 or 6 of like their biggest movie ideas in that one lunch. That's what that would be.
And I would be there too. This is my new fan fiction written by Chase. All the coolest gamers.
I brought them together because I DM'd them on Twitter. It was great.
This is a real fantasy fiction in a world where Twitter is still Twitter and not X, the everything app.
Yeah, Twitter is still Twitter and not the Musk app.
Yeah, not the hell site.
But yeah, Astrobot. Loved it. Great game.
Loved it. Yeah.
I've also been, but probably the thing I've been playing the most besides that is still Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, sure.
Making my way through. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I will say that it is one of the most unintentionally funny games that I've ever played in my whole life.
Yes.
I didn't realize this, but man, it's so self-serious. And when they say something ridiculous, they just try to pass it off as so just nonchalant and normal.
They take it very seriously.
They take it very seriously. I was playing the Atlantica level last night, and when you're fighting Ursula, I don't know if I did this when I played the first time. I might have just skipped over this level once the Under the Sea sing-along happened.
Yeah,
because I don't remember this fight at all. But there is one point where Sora is fighting Ursula, and he like kills her eels, and then she's singing for her eels, and she calls them her poopsies.
Yes.
And he says,
"Sorry, mommy. Your poopsies are toast."
I have a clip of that exact moment, David. I saved it on my PlayStation. I'm like, that's fucking ridiculous.
I was shocked. I was so shocked. Like,
the way he says "mommy" too is so ridiculous.
Emphasized "mommy."
Sorry, mommy.
Your poopsies are toast.
It's so ridiculous.
Just like the quintessential like DreamWorks statement. Yeah, there's like the DreamWorks face. That's like the smirky face, right? Exactly. He is kind of the embodiment of that spirit in this game. Sora is. Yeah, just so many instances of him just being a goober. And they really stick with some bits sometimes that just kind of fall flat, but I respect that they stick with the bit of Sora being a dummy, Donald being greedy, and they just try to do very show don't tell humor about it, like off of their body language. And the PS2 is not able to render that kind of body language in any way, shape, or form that is understandable or good. And it's so funny. It's such an unintentionally funny game. It's something else. It's like I just did not pick up on a lot of this when I was younger because I was just taking it so seriously.
Yeah, no, me too.
After the first one, but it's a comedy masterclass, I think.
Yeah, it's bizarre because the first like a couple hours with Roxas are not funny in any way.
No,
and so sad and serious.
Yes, and
then Sora shows back up and he's like, "Sorry, mommy," and like just immediately takes a turn as far as tone goes.
Yeah. Honestly, it's shocking being like, okay, so Roxas is actually part of this guy, this himbo. Yeah. Like, what is happening here? Such a sweet, sensitive young man turns into this guy.
It's great.
It's great.
It's a great video game.
It's a great video game. But I mean, Sora is, I think, a very lore accurate 14-year-old boy.
Yeah. I've come to appreciate him after having played a lot of the series, because I think especially after playing 1, I was like, he's kind of partially one of the least interesting characters in this game. Or at least like it feels like he has kind of the smallest arc as far as like development goes. Like I find Riku a much more interesting like character as far as like change goes. And I think that the series eventually knows that. And they like lean into that a little bit, especially in 3, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
And so I've come to appreciate the fact that he's just like, his instinct is to do good all the time. And that other characters also recognize that is what he does, and are also like, sometimes that gets him into trouble. You know?
Yeah.
That it's not just like he's the morally righteous one every single time. It's that like he's kind of dumb, and like that's good because he doesn't fear very much.
Yeah.
But like maybe the smart thing to do would not be to do what Sora does.
Yeah. He definitely has Goku energy.
Yes, absolutely. Of just no regard for his own personal safety.
Exactly. And I just got to do the good thing. That's it.
Yeah.
Single-minded. But that's pretty much all I've been playing. Chase, what have you been playing?
I got 2 games that I want to talk about.
Let's hear it.
If you are a listener of any other TWG, the podcast network we're on, any other shows from that network, you will probably have heard of both of these video games by now. But I got two that are popping off right now that I would love to talk about. The first of which is called The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, David.
Ooh, you're playing that.
I'm playing that.
Hell yeah.
It's a new Zelda game. Hey, this one kind of came out of nowhere. Like they released the trailer for this year. Like it was pretty recent. And I typically, whenever there is a new Zelda or even a new Mario, I don't read very much about them because I'm like, I am likely going to get this regardless. Yeah. Like there is just such a strong history of each of these games being so good, at least interesting. You know, the worst Zelda or Mario game is there's been a couple of stinkers in the lineup, but like usually in the modern era, they're at least like, wow, that is a interesting idea, you know? And so I kind of just didn't really read up that much other than knowing the kind of main mechanic, which is that you play as Zelda in this one, not as Link. And the idea with how you play through the game is that Zelda has this like staff that can clone items in the world. It makes like echoes of items is what I think they call them. And so essentially like if you find a little shimmering table, you can clone the table. And then now you just know how to make a table wherever. And so if there's like a ledge that you can't get up to, then you can make a table, jump onto it, and then get out. Right. Great. It's really interesting. And so like that was really the only thing I knew. So I was like, all right, let's get into it. I want to see what that is because I think on first blush, my brain was like, that sounds a little complicated. That sounds like that could pretty easily balloon into being like a very heady game. Yeah. And I will say that this one is a headier game than normal Zelda games, but it's still pretty like manageable, all things considered. So essentially the game starts by you're playing as Link. And he's going in to fight I think it's just normal Ganon, the pig dude. And you're sort of beating him, but then he like this rift opens up in the bottom of the like castle floor. And he gets sucked in and Link also gets sucked in. And Link shoots an arrow and Zelda, who is currently in this like crystal prison above the battlefield, gets knocked out of it. And then she has to like escape from the rift that's opening up. And so you have to like run out of there. And eventually you get back to your castle and the king's like, oh, thank God you're okay. And then a rift opens up there as well. He gets pulled in and then spat back out. And he's like, guard, seize her. Like she's clearly the one doing all this. And so there's this sort of like twist where it's like suddenly Zelda's in this position of like powerlessness. She gets taken prisoner and then she meets Tree. I think it's Tri because of Triforce. And he's like, hey, I'm from a different place. Like, it seems like you need help. Let me give you this.
Doesn't specify the place. It's like, I'm not from around here. You need some help.
I think the implication is that he is from where the rifts are coming from. Oh. And so like he gives you this staff that you're able to copy shit with. And I think a very smart thing that they did was that he's got these like three little, essentially like they kind of look like Triforce pieces that are like behind him at all times. And those represent how many items you can spawn at any given moment. Oh, okay. So like if you put out 3 tables, that's your limit. And if you add another one, it's going to remove the first one that you put down. And so very smartly, they limit kind of like what you can do at any given moment. And so the game largely turns into a puzzle after that, which I was like very interested in. I think it's a really cool thing. The first like couple challenges they have is that you have to sneak out of the castle and there's all these guards kind of walking around on the ground and you learn how to make like, okay, you got a table. You also have a bed, which is weirdly one of the most like useful items in the game.
I mean,
because it's
look at real life. That is one of the most useful items you own.
That is true. But if you lay down, you can heal, which is really nice. It takes forever, but like you can do that. But more importantly, it's like 2 squares wide, essentially. So you can cross gaps by just like putting a couple of beds on like the edges of each other. So you can cross like chasms.
A bed bridge.
A bed bridge. Yes, exactly. And so like they have you like sneak around and figure out different ways to like not get caught and then like putting big boulders in front of people so that like their little like path gets interrupted and shit.
Sure.
And yeah, I just like immediately it is a very different kind of video game than the normal Legend of Zelda games are. And I think for the better. Like this is like you can feel it that this is definitely still a Zelda game, but it's different and in a very interesting way. It seems to be running on like maybe the same engine, but certainly the same graphical style as the Link's Awakening remake. And so everything looks kind of like not tilt shifted to the same extent, but it kind of looks like that a little bit. And I just think it's really wonderful. And they're clearly trying to do something different here. I really like immersive sim video games. Which is not like a genre I really knew that I liked really until I played Prey and was like, oh my God, this is like the best shit ever. And I think I thought I didn't like these kind of games because I didn't like Dishonored very much, or at least it didn't get its hooks in me in the same way that like Prey did. For anybody who like doesn't know what that word means, immersive sim is just like a game where it offers you a lot of mechanics that you can use and a lot of problems that you can solve, but doesn't necessarily ascribe a certain solution to any of those problems. So like the bed thing is a perfect example, right? Of how do I get over there? Well, I could try and stack a bunch of beds over to try and cross it, or I could put a bunch of bed or two beds together and then try and do like a trampoline to try and jump across it. Or maybe I can make like a stone fall in a way that when I go down below the place I'm trying to cross, I can jump from, you know, from this stone to whatever. So like there's no one solution to anything. And with Prey, it's expansive, right? It's huge. There's a lot of different kind of solutions you can find, and honestly, a lot of probably like sequence breaking you can do. Where if you just like, you know, spray enough goo on the wall to make yourself a ladder, you might be able to like get to the end of the game very quickly. You know,
goo that wall,
goo the wall, and in that game, it is expansive and borderline overwhelming sometimes. But I like that. I like that version of it. But I will say immersive sims are typically, to me, they feel like that feels like a genre that's very intimidating to get into. Yeah. Especially if it's like somebody who's like, I have played Mario. How do I get into an immersive sim? Yeah. And like, that is a pretty demanding learning curve, at least in my mind. But this game feels like a very good middle ground where they're still giving you plenty of options for how to solve any problem, or like even in the fights, like there's enemies that will show up and whenever you beat one of them, you can copy them. So you can, you know, summon a slime or like a Deku shrub or whatever. Yeah. And you can use any of those to fight them. And so like, there's no one way to do this. It's just kind of like, how do you like to fight? And so it in scope is probably smaller than something like Prey, but it still offers the same kind of satisfaction of like, I don't know if they planned for me to be able to do that. Sure. Initially, they probably did because it's you have like 3 items or whatever. Yeah. But like the farther you get into the game, the more things that you start to collect. And it's like, there are like 5 solutions I could think of to just this one problem. And especially when it's like, they specifically give you one where it's like, okay, here's the spider that if you're in like a 2D area, it will add like a thread to the ceiling so you can climb up it. Like they intentionally use that as like, you need to know this, right? Like this will come in handy. But what about the trampoline? I didn't need to get the trampoline, you know, like, but there are definitely places where I'm like, I don't know how I would have done this otherwise, but I'm sure there are solutions. And so I just find it like a really, really novel look at like what makes a Zelda game. And this is, you know, this is a Zelda game. So it's cool to see them kind of expanding out like, what can this be? Yeah. It also feels very Tears of the Kingdom-y in the way that like there's a lot of experimentation that happens there of just like, I don't necessarily know what the solution is here, but I bet I could figure something out. Yeah. Make something. It's definitely not it's not exactly the same thing, but it triggers a similar part of my brain. Yeah. Where when I open up into a puzzle, I'm like, oh God, what do I do? And then just kind of like stare at it until I'm like, all right, I think I've got an idea. Almost like Scribblenauts in the way. Yes. Yeah. I think Scribblenauts is a good analog. It's definitely not as huge, right? You can't just like spawn like whatever, but in the same way that there's a catalog of like so much stuff that you can use, it's kind of similar, which is cool. And Scribblenauts was also like kind of more intended for like a younger audience. So I think there is some connective tissue. Yeah. In both of those there. I'm not sure why. There's this like story, and I think it's like true. I don't think it's like apocryphal, but Miyamoto talks about like how Zelda was inspired by him like going out in his backyard and like having adventures and shit like that of, you know, just kind of wandering around the forest and the trees and the grass and shit like that. And it's hard for me to describe why, but no other Zelda game has made me feel that more than this game. It truly feels like an adventure. And I think part of that is that I'm not this like legendary hero with a sword. Sure. Like Zelda feels a lot more vulnerable in the beginning. Eventually you're like spawning big burly boys to fight your fights for you. So it's like not big beefcakes, nearly as scary, but like you're just wandering around the woods with like a staff and like spawning like items and stuff. And so I think that the presence presence of danger there is like really fun in a way that I kind of wasn't expecting. And yeah, I think it's that in a combination with like the music and the visual style. It all just feels like I'm on an adventure right now.
Yeah.
It's also very interesting to see the influence of Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. Of like, you know, there's UI that looks very similar, and the voices they're doing the like kind of stuff whenever you like interact with somebody.
They're doing an awooga?
They're doing an awooga. I mean, awooga aside, all of the female voices in this game are so questionable in the way that the Tears of the Kingdom ones are too. Where like, if you hear them from another room over, you're like, yo, what is going on?
I know, right? Yeah, they have a very slow and intentional meander through the dialogue. So it's not just repeatedly going the voice lines,
there's sort of a there, you know it when you hear it.
Yeah.
You know what's going on in there. So, you know, take it or leave it, but it definitely reminds me of Tears of the Kingdom. And so it's interesting to see that influencing this game, because so, you know, there have been 2 top-down Zeldas recently, or kind of recently, right? There's the Link's Awakening remake and Link Between Worlds. Those are the sort of 2 that are, I would say, the bigger ones that they have put out outside of like, you know, other just like updates and releases and shit. But Link Between Worlds feels like a very different game. Like, you know, obviously that was before Breath of the Wild, and so like it's not in this era of Zelda. And the Link's Awakening was like very much true to the original, other than the graphical style. And so like you couldn't really feel the influence of Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, but you can here. And so I find that sort of fascinating to see them blurring that line a little bit, because for a long time these series have run sort of parallel to each other. Yeah. Where it's like, well, you have the 3D ones and you have the 2D ones, and they're different games. And this definitely still plays pretty differently than Breath of the Wild, but you can see them kind of the definitions of those becoming a little fuzzy, despite still definitely maintain their own identity in these games, which I think is cool. Like the sense of adventure is present here, and that's when I go to Zelda really the only thing I need. Yeah. And so the rest of it's kind of gravy, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Also, it's great to play as Zelda. That's cool.
That is cool.
It's been a long time since this game series has existed, and so it is kind of surprising, like, damn, this is the first one. But it's cool. Robin B from Girl Mode she writes for Inverse and has reviewed this game, but also has talked before about like the presence or lack thereof of a sword for Zelda. Because some people were like, hey, if you don't give her a sword, it's kind of like an oversight. Like she feels still kind of like a lesser heroine than Link. And I think Robin's point was like, she does not need one to be a proper quote unquote heroine, you know? Yeah. And so I think a lot of her writing about that is really good. I think I tend to err on her side of this one of, you know, you don't need it to make her feel like, wow, Zelda is a hero in her own right. And I think like, you know, especially in Tears of the Kingdom, you can feel the heroic deeds that she's doing. You're just not playing as her, you know? And so I'm glad that they're at least saying like, okay, you're controlling her now and you're doing the heroic deeds. Eventually they do kind of figure out the sword problem. Like, yeah, sure. You know, it works out, but I really appreciate that perspective. And just like, yeah, if you're interested, check it out over on Inverse. I've just got some good stuff there.
Yeah, I feel like giving Zelda a sword would just make her like, then you're just like playing as Link.
Yeah, you're reskinning.
You're just reskinning Link at that point. So I think I like that they made her play differently. Have like a different mechanical style to how how she goes about the world. That's much more interesting to me. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. Because, yeah, it would just kind of feel like we're just doing Link again, huh? Just like, I'm quote unquote playing as Zelda now. I appreciate that they kind of went back to the drawing board and they're like, what would be different about this character? Because oftentimes these are not like specific characters other than like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and like some of the Wind Waker stuff. Like these are archetypes of times that are not necessarily connected, right? Link is oftentimes just like a guy, you know? Yeah. And so like, I appreciate that they're just giving you an opportunity to play a different archetype in that story. Again, my now that we have gotten this, my dream is Ganondorf, baby.
Ooh, a dwarf game?
Give me a dwarf game.
Man, it just plays like Wario World.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, I would love to see how they could spin it on like you feeling like you're doing the right thing or something like that as Ganondorf, or not. Maybe you're just a bad guy. But like I find that pitch that they have of these three sort of archetypes of the Triforce orbiting around each other through time really interesting. And I would love maybe a different examination of how the other parts of the Triforce can get out of hand too. Like, it makes sense that power, that's Ganondorf's, right? It's power, wisdom, and bravery.
Courage.
Yeah. it makes sense to me how power would be the one that is most often abused. But I would love to see one where courage is abused or wisdom is abused in the way that like power usually is.
Despot Zelda.
Yeah, kind of, right? Like
with her Dark Knight Link.
Like, I don't need them to go super edgy with it, but just like I let the playing this game has made me think about like, oh, cool. Like I get to play as the archetype of wisdom here. And that they're connecting the mechanics with like this kind of otherworldly, almost sorcery. Like that's cool.
Sure.
And so, you know, like let's finish it out. Let's do the third one.
Maybe they could do like a young dwarf sort of deal, like a
Sure,
prequel,
yeah.
like a Star Wars prequels. You're playing as like young Anakin Skywalker, young dwarf.
Yeah, or like somebody who doesn't have like the Gerudo like don't have power, right? That they're like a group of people who are like they need more to kind of defend themselves from like, I don't know, Gabos or something.
Hylians.
I mean, that would be the very dark turn is that like the Hylians are like fascists or something like that. But like that he is essentially trying to be like, I need to figure out a way to protect these people.
Yeah. King of Redlands was a big fascist.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, again, I think that story lends itself very much to like an edgy interpretation, and I don't need that. I think part of Zelda's charm is that it is able to do the kind of like Studio Ghibli thing where it's like, it looks very nice, but is very heavy. And I don't need it to be The Last of Us part dwarf, you know, like I don't need that. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is that I just appreciate that this game is kind of reframing how I think about the series, other than just like, you will always be courage. That is your role as a player.
Chase, you lost me at The Last of Us part dwarf. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that game. Give it to me.
I mean, I would play it.
Give me a nice gray morality game with Ganondorf at the center.
It's going to be tough because he's just such an evil looking man that like...
I saw them eyebrows and those eyes in Tears of the Kingdom. He was spooky.
Yeah. I mean, he also could get it, you know, like that's a good looking dwarf. In Tears of the Kingdom is a good looking dwarf.
What does it have to do with his morality?
Yeah, well, obviously people who are hot are good.
I mean,
that much has been proven.
That's just the truth. That's just the truth.
That's just the truth. Anyway, so this game is very good. I am trying to savor it a little bit because I know it's much shorter than any of the other Zelda games. And typically the top-down Zelda games are quite a bit shorter, just by the merit of them not being a huge 3D world.
Yes.
And so I think that that's totally cool, but I'm trying to like not just absolutely blow through it so I can savor it for longer because it's a good one.
Oh yeah.
The other game that I've been playing, David.
Yes.
It's a game called UFO 50.
Oh, this is the one that's like an anthology game, right?
This is an anthology game. Yeah.
It looks cool.
This is so interesting. This game is fascinating. So for anybody who doesn't know what this is, UFO 50 is a collection of 50 games made by this company called Mossmouth, which is a collective of developers like Derek Yu, John Perry, Eric Shirk, Paul Hubens, Ojiro Fumoto, and Tyreek Plummer, who are different people are responsible for different things, but like Poinpy, Downwell, Spelunky, and Spelunky 2 are some of the kind of bigger games from that group.
Okay, yeah.
And Spelunky 2, like definitely regarded as like one of the better games, or Spelunky 1 and 2, really. But they came together about like 8 years ago and they're like, hey, let's make a game where the pitch is that they have discovered essentially a fictional, but in this world, real, defunct video game console called the LX video game console. And that there was this company called UFO Soft that made 50 games between the years of 1982 and 1989. And the video game UFO 50 is those 50 games that they had, you know, in this fiction.
Interesting pitch.
So fascinating, so interesting. And that's just it. There's these 50 games that you can pick and choose from to play. They're all unlocked from the beginning. You can just pick whichever one you want. And there's a cute little animation of the cartridge being like dusted off when you open it up for the first time. And then it just launches you into one of these games.
Cool.
This is bananas, the achievement that this video game is, because like you and I were around when like I think the Super Nintendo was kind of at its peak, but we were children at that point.
Yeah.
But we're like familiar-ish with that era of games. I think you and I both have played our fair share of like Nintendo games.
Yeah. Sega Genesis.
And especially like, yeah, Sega Genesis, that like era, the kind of 16-bit to 32-bit era of games. And I think especially on the NES, and especially kind of going back and playing these in emulators and stuff, it's like some of them are good and you can tell like, wow, there's a really cool idea here, but there's so much other shit in the way, you know, like just weird layers of cruft or kind of artificial difficulty that's like in 2024, you're like, man, this is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And not in a way where I'm like, that's fun and cool. It's just like,
just hard.
Whoa, that is just hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously time being the way that it is, like they didn't have the sort of like progress of like UI development and user experience that we've had in the past, like, you know, 20 to 25 years in video games, where it's like, hey, there are pretty well-defined ways of how to handle like communicating information to the player, you know? And so all of these games feel and look like, wow, that definitely could be a NES game, but so many of them are like, and also it feels like a 2024 video game in the way that it is like, I know immediately what I need to do. These games are definitely hard, like they're challenging, but very few of them do I find myself being like, that is unfair, or like this is intended to, you know, draw quarters out of somebody at an arcade or something. They're all just like really, really good. And so it is a shocking experience going through these games. I haven't played all of them, to be clear. I've played like a little over half. And, you know, not every one of them is like a game that I'm going to be like, wow, that is the best shit ever. But a lot of them are. A lot of them like, damn, that is really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, and just to kind of illustrate my point, there is this game called Paint Chase where it is like,
it's you and we're painting you.
It's me in 2010 painting houses. And it is this game that's like sort of like Pac-Man, a little bit like Tron, where you're in this car and it's just like painting behind you. And so the goal of the game is to paint enough of the map to clear a certain bar. It's like you have to have 50% in the first level, 60% in the next, or whatever. And so your job is to just like do that. But all the while, there's a bunch of other enemies that will show up and start painting another color over yours. And so you have to like be like, all right, I'm going to go like crash into this one so I can destroy that car, which is going to slow down their progress. But then I can use this little boost that's there to like go a little bit faster to paint more squares so that I can get through the game quicker, get through the map quicker. And so, you know, it's Tron and Pac-Man for sure, but also it's Splatoon in the same way, right? In the way that it's the point of it is to cover as much of the map as you can. And like, other than this game, like that would have been an impossibility. You know, like you couldn't possibly have made a game in 1982 that was influenced by Splatoon, again, just because of the nature of time. Maybe you could preempt that and somebody could have arrived at that conclusion already, but just by nature of there being so many other games in existence, it feels like there are so many other places where they're drawing influence from. And so you get just these really, really interesting ideas all over the game that feel so novel and so new, despite the fact that they're going for this kind of retro feel. Yeah. And the kind of meta layer there is that you get these little blurbs about the game that you can read before you play them. And, you know, they kind of tell the story of this fictional development team of like this one was made in their free time at their other jobs. And this one was kind of a flop. And so they had to like try a different tactic or just all this stuff. And so you get this like meta narrative about, you know, game development and being interested in games and developing games at this time. I think most of these people were not like in game development at the time. They're fairly, you know, around our age, if not a little bit older. Yeah. And so none of them were like, you know, really in there, but it's a really interesting look at like how to interpret the work that was coming out of companies at the time. God, it is so interesting. Like there are so many games in here that I'm like, damn, this is like a good game unto itself, right? Like outside of being in a collection of 50 other very good games, it's like just this one is good. And there's 50 of them. It is a bananas flex for this to exist because like, I think you and I
flex. Wow.
A bananas flex. They're flexing their bananas. Wow.
Bananas Flex. That's a good name.
It does kind of sound like a dessert, doesn't it?
It sounds like a dessert. Sounds like maybe a mobster.
Hey, this is my boy Bananas Flex. Don't get on his wrong side.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
And so, yes, it is a Bananas Flex because like, I think you see those ads every now and then when it's like, hey, this weird little console has 1,000 games in it and 500 of them are Tetris reskins or whatever. And like, I've grown used to that. You know, whenever something says like there are a lot of games in one package, I'm like, all right, sure. But for them all to be this good is just like mind blowing.
Yeah.
And it just feels like people who are at the top of their craft being like, I'm just going to experiment with a game and run with it. And that's one of these 50. And so many of them are so fucking good. I put so much time into Bug Hunt.
Bug Hunt.
Bug Hunt. I'm way into Bug Hunt.
All right. Big bug head.
It's like a tactics game where you're...
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Yes.
Of course.
Yes. Where like you are on this like grid, and anytime you like pick up these little like upgrades, you can choose any of the like actions that you have to upgrade. So like, I want to change my movement to be something where I can go diagonal or up on a platform, or I can just replace it with an attack or something like that that goes through bugs and hits more than one, or lobs a grenade over a certain amount of distance. And like, again, just the experience of navigating those menus is so much easier than it ever would have been on the Nintendo. You know, like they've just made such good use of like, how can we make this feel good and natural to play this kind of stuff? But like, oh my God, it's just incredible. Again, if you are a TWG enjoyer, none of this will be super new information, because I suspect at this point, Girl Mode has probably put their episode out, probably mentioning this game. And Brendan Bigley of Into the Aether also put out like a 45-minute video about this the other day, which I definitely think you should go watch. I think he called it UFO 50 as a masterpiece. And it's really interesting to me to see what parts of this game people glom onto. Because there are a lot of different parts of it that I'm like, oh, I actually didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Or that one of the different 50 games are something that people are like, this is the one that really got me, right? Whereas like, I was like, yeah, that was a good one, but like that wasn't the one that spoke to me.
Yeah.
Like I hear a lot of people appreciating Mortal, which is this like bizarre, like kind of platformer, kind of, I would say strategy game almost, because you have to kind of plan ahead for a lot of stuff. But that wasn't one that like spoke to me immediately. Whereas like Bug Hunt was, right? I was just so immediately
the bugs spoke to you.
The bugs spoke to me. I heard their cries. And so I think Brenton was appreciating the fact that like, so for Into the Aether, every season premiere that they have, they do like a rundown of like a whole console's library, right? So most recent one, they tackled the GameCube and played just like a ton of GameCube games to figure out like which ones are the ones that we really appreciate. And so this experience of playing like a ton of games all at once is something that he and Stephen Hilger are like pretty familiar with. And so the experience of this game felt, he said in this video, like kind of similar in a way that was like refreshing and also like very fun to experience that many games all at once. Because it's like, it's kind of impossible to have that experience if you've been around in games for so long. Whereas I think the thing that I am interested in, and you know, you probably heard this by me talking about it already, is just that like you and I often talk about how games from older eras would be much more approachable if they had just like a couple of quality of life tweaks that like made them easier to play. And this game is nothing but that.
It sounds great.
It's really interesting. It's only that kind of stuff, right? Of like, what is a game that is combining like Shinobi with an auto runner look like? They have that. That's in this game, right? Like Temple Run and Shinobi is in one video game.
Great.
And like, that's good, right? Like there's a lot of stuff you can learn from Temple Run, but like bringing it back to what made Shinobi fun in the first place. It's like, they're just doing the thing that we ask for a lot of the time when we play games from good games. And so it's like, there's also just like so little artifice with these games. It's like they look good and professional and like, wow, they put a lot of effort into it. The music sounds like incredible and of its time, but you don't have like spectacle to lean on. Like you have to make a good video game at the bottom of it. And just most of them that I've played, I'm like, that's a good video game. They really figured something out with that one, you know? And so it's such a joy to play through these games because, and especially the act of opening a new one and being like, all right, what's this? I haven't played this one yet.
Exciting.
Because most of them are pretty good. So like, it's a real thrill. And again, just such a flex. I couldn't believe opening some of these up like, oh my God, this one's really good. Oh my God, this one's really good. Any one of these could be released as an indie title on Steam and people will be like, yo, have you played Bug Hunt? It's amazing. So I'm really, really impressed with it. It's kind of rare for me to feel that way. Like with games, usually it's like, it's doing something really well, but I'm not thinking about like, wow, the developers really outdid themselves here. It's like, wow, those are really effective video game at doing what it set out to do. Whereas this one, I'm like, y'all are really like shredding right now in the game development space. Like this is a flex. This is a bananas flex.
Bananas flex.
Hey, don't mess with my boy Bananas.
My name's Bananas, but I ain't no Sunday.
He'll peel you, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, really fascinating game. It's only on Steam right now, so I'm very much hoping that they put out like a Switch release for this, because like it would just go perfect on there.
It's just on Steam. I was
just on Steam.
Say, it sounds like a Switch game, but it's just on Steam. All right,
just on Steam. So I've been playing it on Steam Deck, which has just been phenomenal. Because like again, it feels to me like console games, because of the sort of like input of it all. But oh boy, it's a good one.
Sounds like a perfect Steamy game.
Yeah, for sure. Really good on the Steam Deck. Anyway, David, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week.
Which is?
It's not too many controls, David.
Oh, yeah. Simple, sweet.
Very simple controls. I have been experiencing something in the past few years, and somebody in our community might call me uncle for this one, unk, if you will. But my brain cannot retain the sheer amount of control schemes that need to exist in my brain at any given time. Because like when I was younger, it was really just one or two at a time. And then plus just the kind of recurring, like I'm always going to know how to play Smash Brothers. That's a thing that will be in my brain forever.
It's written in my soul.
Correct. Yeah. It's in my DNA. It's in my RNA.
Whoa.
It's in my GNA.
G, is that your gamer? That's your
that's
gamer nucleic acid?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought we were going to get a little RFK in here for a second when you started saying RNA, but I was like, uh-oh.
Where are we going, please? You dropped out. Don't bring him back.
Oh, he around.
He's still around. I'm sure he's up to some sort of tomfoolery somewhere else. But just like whenever I pop open a new game and they're like, we got a mess of controls in here, I'm like, dude, I don't know if I got more room for you. Like, listen, I love that Zelda game. I'm fucking up the buttons so often.
Yeah.
Not the hit or the jump ones. The ones where it's like, open the menu and select a new item. Always pressing the wrong one. Just constantly pressing the wrong button. And UFO 50, usually it's like 2 or 3 buttons. It's like directional, jump, and something else. You know?
Yeah. No, I think the most egregious offender of too many controls for me recently was Horizon Forbidden West. Like there were so many, like
lots of controls.
Press this button and then these 3 buttons do something different. But if you press the other button, these 3 buttons do something different. And then there's so many like different menus. You actually have to know what's going on and so many different things to upgrade. It was it was so much. If that was like the only game I ever wanted to play for like the next couple years, I would love it. It would be like, oh, this is so deep and complex. I'm like, no. So it's short and sweet. It's great.
Like I need like just give me like a radial menu. That's fine. I'll figure it out. But like whenever there's like hold L2, press square, and then R1 to do the thing, I'm like, yo, I ain't got it. It ain't in me. I don't have this.
Yeah. Get into a claw grip formation on your controller and then do it.
And I recognize that this is very much an old head problem, and B, I am playing at least one new video game every week for the show problem. But
Scooby Doo was complex, baby.
Got that jump, got that run, got that skedaddle button.
I like the skedaddle button, but anyways, continue.
But yeah, it's I really appreciate when it's very simplified.
Yeah.
The one that really fucked me up was I was playing Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance a couple of years ago and then stopped and then restarted kind of recently. And there was a critical mechanic that I did not remember how to do. And I kept like, there was like a thing that I needed to get out of the way. And I was like, there's no button prompt. I'm hitting it. That's not really doing anything. But you have to hit square and X at the same time.
That's how you do the dream drop.
Something like that. Yeah. Where it's like, there was some critical thing that wasn't allowing me to progress. And so I had to like Google, like, how do I get through here?
Yeah.
And then like some forum post from 10 years ago is like,
hey, idiot, you gotta press the like X and square, you bing bong.
Yeah. You're like, you're right. I am a bing bong.
Give me 10 seconds to be unpodtimistic for a second. Like it drives me crazy when I ask Google a question and it's like a Reddit post or something of somebody being like, hey, how do I do this? And the first response is always use Google, bro. How do you think I got here? How do you think I arrived at this place? I used Google to find you. And you're the one telling me to use Google. It's just a useless answer. There's no actionable thing. And it's everywhere. It is everywhere in the internet. I run into that answer for so many that use Google. I'm here. This is how I got here.
Google don't work no more. You got to type in like your question plus like some forum to actually get an answer. Otherwise you just get like 20 pages of just baloney.
A website where they open it up and it's like, here's how to progress this one spot in Kingdom Hearts, and then an ad, and then the first paragraph is Kingdom Hearts is a video game directed by Tetsuya Nomura, and then 5 paragraphs down, it's like, okay, so now we're gonna get into how to get past this point, and then another ad, and then
there is just so much useless words, so many useless words on the internet. But anyways, unpodtimisticness.
I'm back on the optimism. Yeah, sorry.
Bring out the sage.
Yeah, we got to clear the bad air.
Yes.
Anyway, David, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism this week?
I do, Chase, and
what is it?
It is a challenging platforming level.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I love a good platforming challenge. I think this kind of actually goes in line with what you're talking about. It's just so simple. It just feels like they lay bare the bones of gaming and like why this is a fun thing to do. So like the last secret level in Astrobot, very good. Very good, just jumping and running and using some different, like, very basic things mechanic-wise to play the game. It's just excellent. It was really a lot of fun to learn that level and to get better at it. And it reminded me of a lot of other games that have awesome platforming challenges like this. Like the Path of Pain is always one that comes to mind from Hollow Knight. Oh, that was so hard.
It was very good, yeah.
The Celeste B-sides are so good. And of course, that last moon level on Mario Odyssey, also very, very hard. That one is maybe the hardest.
It really kicked my ass. Yeah, that took me actual days.
That one is so hard. But yeah, I just love a stiff platforming challenge at the end of a game. Feels fun.
It does feel fun, and like if those games usually make them mandatory, it is immediately so much less fun.
Yeah, Path of Pain was mandatory, but like. Those other ones are optional.
Yeah, I appreciate when they're just like, hey, for all you real freaks, here's the tough stuff if you really want to get in here.
Oh, only the freaks are here still? Here you go, baby. Freak away.
Here's a little slice of something.
So yeah, always just a fun time just to test your prowess, test your thumbs, take off your thumb splint to unlock your limiter. Feels good.
Yeah, you're unlocked potential.
Yeah, you're unchained CMC. Untethered. Sorry, that's a hand joke for anybody out there. Anyways,
hell yeah, baby.
That is my Podtimistic thing of the week.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah. I have one quick follow-up question about UFO 50. Is this kind of like a more thought out, long form version of WarioWare in a way?
That was the connection my brain made initially. But the games are just so much longer than the mini games in Wario.
Yeah, no, they seem like actual full games.
Some of them are very long from what I understand. Like they're full, like multiple many hour RPGs and shit. So like some of them are like, yes, you could beat this in like, half an hour to an hour if you're like good at it. But there are very large video games in this one. So I think it is another iteration of a WarioWare idea, but just like kind of on another in another stratosphere for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Hell yeah.
Anyway, do you want to move on to our main thing, Dave?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. Welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. Hello.
Oh yeah, baby was quite the segue into this segment, Chase.
That one felt like it was the right time to do it and therefore is a jump scare.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Just took a nice sip of your water and you just went right into it.
Yeah, we're here.
Into it.
You got suggested to play a game. Oh, hold on. Hey, it's spooky season, baby.
It's spooky season.
It's here. We're recording this one day prior to October 1st, but it's here. You can feel it in the air.
Chase, can you give me one of your best scary laughs?
I tried to conjure it. No, I tried to conjure it in myself and I couldn't do it.
Really?
Usually whenever I'm doing like an impersonation, I'll feel it and hear it in myself before I actually do it. And I came up short. My body was just like with the dust of a not impersonation.
Wow.
Whoa.
I'm a little shocked.
No, that's
that's
Bananas Flex. I don't know who that is.
Well, you tried.
Yeah. You've got much better ones. You've done some of them on the pod. Exactly. Yeah.
That's good.
Spooky.
That's
scary.
Spooky. It's just fun.
It's spooky season, and typically we make, I wouldn't say a big deal out of it, but it's usually a fun time of year for us on the show. In years past, I feel like we usually cover like at least one ridiculous horror game and then like probably one pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you're new here, it culminates in us writing some short, spooky stories at the end of the month.
This is true.
Which I'm very excited about. It's coming. It's on its way. And yeah, this is the first episode of that. So we decided to start slowly, I will say. This is very much on the farthest side of the spooky to scary scale. This is on the farthest definition of spooky. This is the one.
Yeah. This is the least spooky game that you can still call spooky.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There are technically ghosts in it.
Yeah.
Kind of. Mm-hmm. It's we got suggested a while ago from listener TK. Thank you, TK.
TK.
It suggested Scooby Doo Night of 100 Frights.
We're doing it. We're getting frightened 100 times.
I'm getting 100 frights delivered directly to me. Had you heard of this one before?
I'd heard the name before, I think, but I've never played any Scooby Doo game.
I don't think I have either. Which is kind of surprising. I feel like Scooby Doo was kind of on one at the time.
Scooby Doo was definitely still pretty big when we were kids.
Which is bizarre given just how old it was.
That's really old.
Like, I'm sure SpongeBob will still be popping by the time like we are at the ages like our parents were when we were watching SpongeBob. But like, it is bizarre to see Scooby Doo like still doing its thing.
It's still around.
Still around.
I think the movies that came out in like the aughts definitely helped, where Matthew Lillard was Shaggy. That kept it going.
Yeah, it did. I appreciate
kept Scooby in the zeitgeist.
Anyway, let me hit you with some hot stats about this game.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hot stats.
So this came out throughout 2002. There's a bunch of different releases in different regions and for different consoles, but the PS2 version came out in North America May 29th of 2002. So pretty early, all things considered, in the PS2 GameCube sort of life cycle there. Mm-hmm. This was made by Heavy Iron Studios, which...
That's an intense name.
It is for the kinds of games that they made, such as SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, and of course, Family Guy, Back to the Multiverse.
It sounds like they had aspirations to make like a mech game.
Yes, with Heavy Iron Studios. Yes. Yeah. Like that should be the name of the developers of Armored Core, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, they made WALL-E. Yeah, they were definitely making games of the era where like every kind of children's adjacent movie or show also needs a video game. And like most of these are not good. You know, like most of the movie tie-in games are just straight up bad from this era.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, we need a Shrek 2 game. What are we going to do? You know, like it has to
throw it
come
out there.
Yeah. That said, I know that Battle for Bikini Bottom is like a very well-regarded game from that era. So like, I don't think they were putting up bricks. I'm pretty sure. Like, didn't they just put out like a remake of this or like a remaster?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure people love Battle for Bikini Bottom. I didn't play it, but I'll ask the people over on Press Start. I know at least one of them is a fan of that.
Let's give it a shot.
I do have a review from Joe Video, our friends over an outlet out of France. Our friends over in France, who I took their review and ran it through Google Translate a number of times, changing it from one language into another to get an artist's interpretation of their review of Scooby Doo Night of 100 Frights, which I'll read for you now.
Please.
I decided I'd like to play for an hour. Eventually. I realized that the order hadn't really changed and continued the same way. However, the world of Scrumbly Boo is very familiar, which may disappoint some. And they gave that a 6 out of 10.
Scrumbly Boo.
Scrumbly Boo. I couldn't believe that Scrumbly Boo came out of the translator.
That's amazing. I love Scrumbly Boo.
I know. We've got a lot of contenders for weird new guy that we made in this episode.
Bananas Flex and Scrumbly Boo are like, the Scrumbly Boo is like the fuck up and Bananas Flex is like the too serious guy.
Yes,
but they're definitely partners.
Yeah, there's some kind of relationship here between the two of them. I'm not sure what it is.
This is, we need to explore this.
Well, we've got our short stories.
I was about to say, we have our stories coming up.
What is this game, David?
Yeah, Scooby Doo Night of 100 Frights is a Scooby Doo game where you play as Scooby the dog.
Doo himself.
Scooby the Doo. Wow, we're back on Doo.
Yeah, it's a month of Doo. Nothing but Doos.
So yeah, you're Scooby Doo. It's a platformer. It's a 3D platformer with spooky vibes and like a small Metroidvania element in that you have to get certain power-ups to progress to certain areas in the game. You pick up Scooby snacks. They're essentially like the coins or whatever, like, varied, like very numerous collectible that you find in other 3D platformers of the time. And there's different areas you can go to. There's like a dock, there's a garden, there's the mansion, of course, that you can go into. And there's just different little tiny mini levels that you go through and platform through as Scooby Doo. You can double jump, you can swing from things, you can skedaddle, I guess is what we used to call it in the beginning, where you headbutt things and can hurt things that way. And then just straight up run. You can use a shovel to find things in the ground. Yeah, there's actually a fair amount of things you can do in this game. But yeah, it's essentially a 3D platformer with Scooby Doo.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
What did you think about this one?
I thought I was actually kind of surprised by the quality of like the production value of the game.
Me too.
To be quite honest, I thought they did a very good job of really making it feel like a Scooby-Doo, like a classic Scooby-Doo episode, laugh track and all, which I was shocked by.
Weirdly rocks. I was really into the laugh track for some reason.
Yeah, I was at first when I heard it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be like this. But then it just became so nostalgic to hear it. And I think their use of it was actually quite good.
Yeah.
They had a good idea of how and why to use it, which is without reservation. You really got to use it quite a bit.
Not only is it in a lot of the cutscenes, which makes it feel just like a normal episode of Scooby-Doo, but every now and then they'll laugh at you while you're playing as Scooby-Doo. Like if you're like really... The times that I noticed it happening is when you're on like a swing or something and you're like jumping from one platform to another, that a laugh track will just come on, which I kind of loved and is also humiliating as a player, just for like a live studio audience to be laughing at what I'm doing.
This scaredy dog is doing something funny. Or I got the laugh track when I would skedaddle and like run into a wall. And people like, oh, in the background.
It's so bizarre. Like, I understand why, but how is this the only game that has ever had a laugh track?
Great question. I think you can really only get away with it because it's Scooby-Doo.
That's fair. But it's just so strange. It's such a bizarre holdover from TV.
Chase, are you telling me that you want them to make a Friends video game with a laugh track?
Oh God, no, please don't do this. I can't bear to pilot the Ava that is Joey.
A Friends dating simulator?
Okay, now
Friends episodic dating simulator.
I could be into this. If I just have to like...
Even if you're Joey Tribbiani?
Especially if I'm Joey. But if I just have to like control the mecha of Joey, like if I am the heavy iron Joey, then I don't think I want to do that.
You don't want to be Joey Tribbiani just messing around in the 90s, trying to be an actor in New York City, barely paying rent, not understanding what any of his other friends do to get by.
See, I could be
You don't want to feel the ennui of Joey?
I think I could be open to the ennui of Joey, if I'm being real.
What would be the least desirable friend?
I think playing as Ross would bum me out.
I think that's the easy and I think correct choice.
Probably canonically correct answer for who is the least video game protagonistable.
Yeah. Just go and be a professor. Anyways, this is way off topic.
Point being, I think at least one more video game should add a laugh track.
God of War.
God of War is a shoo-in.
Easy laugh track.
I agree with you. It is a better game than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
I almost always go into a movie or show tie-in game being like, this will be bad.
Yeah.
This simply is going to not feel good. It's not going to play good. It's not going to be very fun, but like this one's fun. It's good.
Yeah. It was surprisingly good. Like, is the platforming going to, rock your world or anything like that? No,
definitely
it's
not.
pretty basic platforming, but if you're playing this game, you're playing it because you want to play as Scooby, and it does a good job of feeling like you're playing through a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah.
With the laugh track, with the music, with all the little quips that Scooby says throughout the game where he's just scared of like, oh no, it's a werewolf, stuff like that.
I think I have never acknowledged enough the fact that I think Scooby is pretty funny as a character.
You like Scooby-Doo.
I think not necessarily the show. The show is good. I enjoy the show.
Yeah.
But I think the bit of Scooby-Doo is pretty good.
That he's a talking scaredy dog.
Yes. And specifically when he mispronounces shit. I like that a lot.
Because he can't speak with his non-human mouth.
Yeah, because he's trying to form his non-human mouth is trying to form words out of a dog body, which is horrible if you think about it for too long. But when he says Runa instead of tuna, I like that. That's funny. He said
they were really leaning into that being funny And they were kind of right.
They were kind of right.
We talked about all the different types of tuna sandwich or tuna foods that he enjoyed.
Yeah. And I like that. I think I like that. I think at the time I was just like, I am above this. I'm above laughing at a silly dog saying things incorrectly.
Yeah.
But I think I am older and wise enough to say that no, that Scooby-Doo is a funny character.
Yeah. Because I mean, this came out when we were teens, preteens. And of course we cannot be caught dead with Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights in our GameCube. Yeah.
I'm too old and serious.
I'm too old and serious. Where's Prince of Persia Warrior Within? Please give me that. I want to play that now.
I need more edginess.
Yeah, exactly.
I need more emo. Mm-hmm. I honestly, I needed Kingdom Hearts is what I needed, but
yeah,
it was not quite out yet.
Didn't we all?
But hey, real quick, is Shaggy eating dog food?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's always been the
seems
implication.
To be eating dog food,
because he's the stoner. He'll eat anything.
Yeah, but it does seem like sort of a bracing and sad state of affairs that the stoner man is like, yeah, I'll eat the food meant for animals. That's okay with me.
Hey, Shaggy knows what's good, and these Scooby snacks are good.
I think Shaggy should eat some human food too. I think he should be allowed.
Like they definitely keep Shaggy from eating human food. You're right. The rest of the what did they call themselves? Something? The Mystery Machine team or whatever.
The Scooby Doo Squad, also known as Mystery Incorporated.
Mystery Incorporated. That's it.
Yeah.
The rest of the people in Mystery Incorporated also view Shaggy as a pet, and they only let him eat.
He's closer to the dog than he is Velma.
Yeah, this show came out at the height of like reefer madness hysteria, so that's probably just how they viewed stoners at the time.
It's propaganda, anti-stoner propaganda that like Shaggy is only allowed to eat the dog food.
Mm-hmm. If you get off the devil's lettuce, Shaggy, we got a steak waiting for you. Until then, it's more Scooby snacks.
Yeah, when that bit came up, like I was expecting Shaggy to say, "Scooby, do you want a Scooby snack?" But Shaggy himself was like, "You know what I could go for?" And I'm like, "Hold on, pause."
No,
y'all have a custom-made van that fits all of you in it to do mystery, and you can't get my man a sandwich.
This is what Shaggy has chosen. Shaggy has chosen the snack life, the Scoob snack life.
He doesn't want human food. He doesn't have the taste for it anymore.
Although Scooby does eat sandwiches in this show, or in this game.
That is true. There's like carefully placed sandwiches that act as like your health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sandwiches are your health. Scooby snacks you just collect. And you can also get monster tokens, which will then you can go like view different monsters from different episodes of Scooby-Doo in the past. It's fun.
Very fun.
Yeah.
The pitch of the story is essentially that there's like some like inventor that this lady calls you to be like, hey, my dad's all fucked up and you got to like solve this mystery. Mm-hmm. The plot takes some turns, I will say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not everything is as it seems.
Are you saying it's a mystery?
It's a mystery, David. The mastermind is the main antagonist. I will say, fully voiced by Tim Curry. He is in this video game.
Really?
There's weirdly a lot of voice talent in this game. Mm-hmm. Tim Curry's in here. Don Knotts is in here.
Oh, wow.
It also says in the trivia that this is the only video game Don Knotts is ever in.
Wow.
Which is very fun.
That's impressive.
Tim Conaway is also in this.
They treat the IP of Scooby-Doo with a lot of respect in this game, which I appreciate it.
Yeah. I like, they could have made a very different game, but I kind of appreciate that they're like, let's see what it's like to play a video game of a television episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, no, I thought that was the right way of doing it.
It's very like Luigi's Mansion. I mean, I'm sure Luigi's Mansion is also pulling from Scooby-Doo. But
I mean,
like,
that was the biggest vibe I felt in comparison to the game was definitely Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, because you're playing a coward who doesn't want to be there.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, a coward, and there's a lot of narrow hallways and spooky monsters that you kind of have to navigate yourself around and muster your courage to deal with.
I love the monster that is just simply a Cro-Magnon man inside of an ice cube.
Just comes busting out. Busting out.
There are many of them. I don't know enough. This is going to be a bizarre sentence. I don't know enough about the Scooby-Doo lore to know like if the Cro-Mag is actually like a caveman in real life, or if that's just like a person in a mask, you know?
I mean, I feel like in the base episodes, it's almost always someone in a mask.
A person in a mask, yeah.
I think sometimes in some of the movies, like the longer form Scooby-Doo episodes.
Prestige Doo,
Prestige Doo. They would actually make it be an actual monster, and they'd be like freaked out. Because I remember distinctly like they would try to pull off the mask, and it just wouldn't come off. It's just the face.
Yes, yeah. I also remember them. Yeah, maybe it's just a guy. Maybe it's just an actual caveman.
Maybe. Did it ever explain it in the game later on?
No.
No?
There's cavemen. I didn't get there. If it did, I didn't beat this whole
There's
thing.
cavemen and werewolves and whatnot. Oh, is Tim Curry the vampire looking guy from the beginning
the
intro?
mastermind. Yeah.
Why did that look like Bill Hader to me?
That's interesting. Yeah,
Did you see that?
Expected that? I do see what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's one of the first things I wrote down about this game. Like, why is Bill Hader a vampire in this?
What are you doing here, Bill?
Yeah.
Are you famous yet, Bill?
Yep, he's thinking about it.
I didn't expect this, but the jump sound is the same as Gex's jump sound in Gex.
I know. That's exactly it.
The barn? It sounds exactly the same.
It must just be like a
common use jump
open
sound
domain or whatever it is, jump sound, spring sound.
Yeah.
Because that's the exact same sound.
It was a frightening realization of like, oh my God, here's another connection to Gex the Gecko.
I'm playing Gex again.
Yeah.
I want to get off Gex's Wild Ride. I'd rather play this than Gex.
Yeah, no, me too, to be fair. Scooby Doo is a much more fun time to be around. Your comments about it being a Metroidvania is weirdly accurate. I hadn't thought about it at all, but like you really do have to like
You're gated.
go from one end of the mansion to another to like get to other parts. It's like, it's a lot less of just a straight up platformer that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you really have to explore, and like you'll hit a dead end and you'll be like, okay, I got to go back. Let's see where this one goes. Okay, I get through here. I get another item. I can go this way. I can jump now and get that key.
Yes.
Yeah, there is some thought put into this game.
Which is, it was surprising because I like hit my first dead end. Like essentially right when you get into the mansion, you meet up with the mastermind's daughter, spoilers. But she's like, hey, here's a map and, go down this hallway. And you do. And I think you can't get any farther from there. Or at least I couldn't figure out how to go any farther.
Yeah.
And then you go out and then Don Knotts is out there being like, hey, do you want a key to the garden? Go like find this key under these roses or something like that. And then from there, it's like you get that. And then eventually you like get this like invention that allows you to double jump essentially, which is all extremely Metroid. Yeah. Now that I'm like thinking about this. Which is a fun way to gate it all. Like you've got sort of a double-edged mechanic there with, there are a lot of gates you can't get through unless you have enough Scooby snacks. So you do need to like collect some of them. Yeah. And then a lot of them are gated behind like, hey, you need the double jump or you need like a hammer to like hit this thing.
You need this key.
Yes. Yeah. Which is like, that's fun. I think that's an interesting way to riff on just like a straight up platformer. Yeah. No, it was enjoyable. And it also, they tell you like, you need this invention, you need that invention. So like you're giving you clues of like, oh, there's more to this game, like mechanically than what I'm experiencing right now, which is also like makes you curious and want to explore more to like unlock these new Scooby skills, right? Because it is pretty simplistic when you first start playing the game. It's just like you have run, you have skedaddle / headbutt, you have jump, and you have move around, and that's about it. But there's at least like three or four different inventions you can get to make you a super Scooby. A Scooby Saiyan?
A super Scooby Saiyan? A super Scoobin?
A super Scoobin. His hair turns yellow.
Now we're getting very close to Ultra Instinct Shaggy.
Yes, yeah. Which is, I still appreciate that meme. I think that's very funny.
I had a good time with it.
A little dead now, but still good.
It's a pretty old meme.
I agree with you that it's neat how they sort of gated that. It's also it's a game that is of that era where I would have thought when I was playing it, like, should I be able to get past this part? And it's kind of nice that every now and then they're like, no, you're not supposed to. They
pretty much just tell you. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, which I appreciate the clarity.
Yes, in what I would probably call a better game, I think that they would just let you feel the fact that you cannot get to another part of the game yet. Yeah. Of like, wow, that is a much higher ledge than I can get to right now. But just again, the kind of early 3D era, you're always like, am I not making this jump right? Or like, do I need to be timing this differently so that I can make it over there? But yeah, the clarity is pretty nice of this. And again, like, this is almost definitely a kid's game, right? Like, this is a game for children. And so, or at least intended to be able to play it, but played by children.
Yeah.
So you don't really want these kids being like, what do I do, man?
Exactly.
What am I supposed to do in here?
A little more clarity would have been nice in Kingdom Hearts 1 at some points.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
Just like an objective marker would be super cool.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
Yeah.
No, if you're not able to make the game like so clear what you need to do, like, it's okay. Just give me at least a description of where I need to be, Yeah, all in all, like, a pretty good game, I would say.
Yeah. And they hit the spooky vibes perfectly.
Yeah, they. I very much appreciate a game that is interested in the spooky rather than just straight up the scary.
Yeah. They just nailed the tone of the show. I was really impressed. Good job.
Yeah,
Good
me
job,
too.
Scooby Doo Night of 100 Frights.
Great job, Heavy Iron Studios.
Heavy Iron Studios, right? They're still working on their mech sim.
Yeah, Metal Gear 6 is going to be made by Heavy Iron Studios.
There you go.
Okay, cool. Well, do you have anything else to say about this one?
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would.
Me too.
Well done.
Yeah, well done. I had a great time. Love to jump.
Love the jump.
I love to jump as not Gex the Gecko.
Yeah, this is true.
Because then you're not subjected to like outdated stereotypes that Gex is hurtling at the player.
We're taking back that jumping sound with this game. We're reclaiming
it's
it.
Scooby's now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What a hero.
What a hero. TK, thank you for suggesting this one.
Yeah, thank you. If you would like to interact with the podcast more, you can go to podtimism.com. You can see a list of all of our old shows. You can look at the beautiful podcast thumbnail art that Chase has made for each episode. You can search to see what games we have talked about in the past. Like if you really want to know our thoughts on Gex, if you didn't already get that from this episode, you can search it in there and listen to that episode. You can also suggest a game for us to play on that same website. We won't get to it immediately, but we will get to it eventually, hopefully someday, somehow. But yeah, keep them coming. I love seeing a new email with a new suggestion. It's always so fun to see what people want us to play. It's a great time.
Also, it is a good time.
Also, on the website, there is a link to our Discord. We are part of the Worst Garbage Podcast Network, which features podcasts such as Into the Aether, .zip, Frog of the Week, Can't Let It Go, and Girl Mode.
And Girl Mode. And Pause and Clause. Did you say Pause and Clause?
I didn't say Pause and Clause.
I think you did say Pause and Clause.
Did I say Pause and Clause? If I didn't say Pause and Clause, it's worth mentioning at least 3 or 4 times. So here you go. Pause and Clause. Yeah, go check it out. Go check out those other podcasts and go hang out in the Discord and chat. It's a good time.
It's a great time.
It's a great time. Thank you, Scott Wilkinson, for your beautiful podcast art. The sunflowers are beautiful. You can go check out her commissions at co-fi.com/humblegoat. And, holidays are coming up. So maybe you want a commission of something cool for someone that you like.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Something cool for someone cool.
Just give her those notes and she will make something for you. That's it. Just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I guess I'm just going to go for it. Thank you, dear listener. Thank you, dear listener, for spending your time with us. We really appreciate it. We would do this. We would chat if no one listened. So it's cool that people do. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. Chase, do you have any spooky video game wisdom for us this week?
Ooh. Do not cross Bananas Flex or Scumby Boo is going to come for you.
Scumby Boo. So now Bananas Flex is like still a mobster, but is it Scumbly Boo?
I said Scrumbly Boo earlier.
Scrumbly Boo.
It is in the review. It is written as Scumbly Boo.
Scumbly Boo versus Scrumbly Boo. I think I like Scrumbly Boo better. I'm gonna stick with.
Yeah. Well, again, this is a fantasy word. This is not a real word that exists. So like you can say whichever one you want.
I think they're interchangeable. So it's gonna be like what I'm feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
So Scrumbly Doo is Banana Flex's like attack dog or something.
Yeah, it's his fixer.
Fixer. Scrumbly Boo is coming for you.
Scrumbly Brumbly Boo. Where are you? Got some bad guys to fix now.
I got some murders to hide now. Scrumbly Doo. Where are you? What do I do with all this blood? Oh no, this is getting dark. It's of the season.
It's of the season.
So you can't get mad at me. It's of the season.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, we're going to have some more scary games coming.
I'm ready. This is fun.
Very excited.
I always enjoy this time of year.
Next week. We can announce it here. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Next week. I haven't told you this.
I was about to say, I don't know what it is either. I'm on the edge of my seat.
I wrote out what we should do because one of them we can play in person.
Cool. Great.
Next week is Resident Evil 6.
Oh, okay.
The bad one.
Co-op?
Yeah, we can play co-op in that one.
Is this the one that has like 3 different storylines going on?
Yes, it is, David.
Baby. All right.
That's the one.
Let's Scrumbly do it.
It's a marked step down from quality of the rest of the series.
Yeah. Good thing Biohazard came out.
Really redid it there. Mm-hmm. Hey, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, we will. Are you saying goodbye?
Yeah, I'm saying goodbye.
Okay.
Do you not want to say goodbye?
Maybe
Do you want to hang out?
We can say goodbye.
It feels like I forced you into it. I don't want to say goodbye if you don't want to say goodbye.
That's fine. No,
we can say goodbye.
I'll say bye right now. Goodbye.
Bye. No, you hang up. No, you stop the podcast.
All right, I'm good. Okay, let's go. Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.